gas, groceries, housing, even public transportation. The price of absolutely everything is going up right now. Inflation is a very serious problem in the economy today.
It's a topic nobody wants to talk about, but it impacts every one of us.
Every time we go shopping, consumer reporter John Matarese explains how we can save some money at the grocery store.
But inflation is just an indicator of rising consumer prices. Therefore, inflation doesn't explain why prices are going up.
In this video, I'm going to explain why that happened and why I believe that in the next few months, things might even get worse.
You're going to need a lot of extra money right now for gas. As yesterday, the national average for a gallon of gas in the U.S. topped $4 for the first time in 14 years.
You're all feeling this, right? So how high could gas prices go?
Chinese health authorities are still working to identify the virus behind a pneumonia outbreak in the central city of Wuhan.
At least 59 people are believed to have been sickened by the new virus.
In early 2020, the pandemic reached the entire world and caused a massive disruption in society. Restaurants, physical stores, airports, movie theaters, concerts, and many other businesses had to close.
Stay at home.
Stay home, stay safe.
Quite simply, stay at home.
At that point, the economy was at risk of collapsing, and almost every central bank and government had to print a lot of money. If they didn't do so,
society risked going into an economic depression.
$422 billion in COVID relief is now flowing to Americans. The first payments arriving directly in some bank accounts over the weekend.
So governments did what they could to make sure that people could stay at home, but at the same time have some money to buy food and try to maintain a relatively stable economy.
This caused an economic imbalance where certain industries benefited while others were shut down. Industries like tourism and hospitality were devastated, while others like internet business, home delivery, anything to do with electronics and computers, and of course the stock market skyrocketed. People had all this extra money and very little to spend it in. With all measures put in place, plus the vaccines, it seemed like the pandemic was relatively under control, and it seemed like the economy was ready for a reopening.
Moments ago, President Trump said he will announce new guidelines tomorrow.
We'll be opening up states, some states much sooner than others. Governors are looking forward, they're chomping at the bit.
However, this caused a wave of strong consumption. This wave was beneficial for the economy, but it also caused many issues. As it turns out, closing factories and businesses is relatively easier than reopening them.
In order to reopen, you have to hire employees again. You have to talk to the suppliers and start distributing your products again. Because of the sudden stop in the gears of economy, when we reopened it, we had all kinds of production problems. Microchip shortage, shipping crisis, and also the price increase in natural resources because of the sudden demand. In short, reopening the economy proved to be a lot harder than anybody expected.
So back to 2022 and the result or sort of the aftermath of the economic measures taken to combat the pandemic are levels of inflation that we hadn't seen in a long time in history.
Inflation.
But inflation is just an indicator, also known as CPI, an indicator that measures the rise in prices of all things that we as consumers buy.
From food to movie tickets to public transportation, everything that we have mentioned in this video, everything is measured with this consumer price index. Yet the question remains, why has the price of everything gone up so much?
After the economic reopening debacle that we just explained, businesses and factories that managed to stay open through the pandemic quickly found out that they couldn't hire employees.
Businesses across the upstate struggling to find workers, and it's still a major issue here into the new year.
Believe it or not, there is a labor crisis in most countries, and many jobs are still vacant at this point. Since the recovery didn't happen at the same time in every country, many businesses also had delays from their suppliers that operate in different parts of the world.
The world economy is so interconnected that to produce a car or a phone, now you need parts coming from all over the world.
Today, our semiconductor supply chain is far too dependent on conditions in countries halfway around the world.
Production chains became irregular due to the disruption caused by the pandemic.
At the same time, many people started saving like never before. This is probably thanks to the government stimulus and the fact that people had little to none spending on leisure and entertainment because they were stuck at home. This caused a very aggressive demand on very specific products and services like we had never seen before.
The cost of buying a car has been accelerating big time. Prices up a staggering 40.5% in the past year.
Experts say the world's manufacturers are still struggling to keep up with U.S. demand, sending prices soaring.
Remember, prices are determined by supply and demand. When there's very little supply of a product and a high demand, then prices go up. In a nutshell, this is what happened across the world. The excessive demand paired with the less than ideal supply caused by the labor shortage and the supply chain issues caused the price of almost everything to go up.
TVs, refrigerators, power and communication systems, aviation, toys, cars, trucks, the list goes on.
Alright, and just in case that wasn't enough, in 2022 we have now another big problem.
That's a missile!
Besides the already horrendous and tragical events in Ukraine, this war is also affecting the economic world. You see, after Saudi Arabia, Russia is the second largest producer of oil and natural gas in the world.
As you can imagine, oil is a fundamental natural resource in our economy. We use oil for almost everything.
Energy for our cars, trucks, tractors, planes, ships, but also for most of the power plants in the world.
In other words, without oil, we cannot transport ourselves, and in most cases we can even use our electricity. Oil is also very important for producing plastics, chemicals, and even fertilizers. So without a doubt, our economy is highly dependent on oil and natural gas, and Russia, being the second largest producer in the world, has caused the price of oil and natural gas to skyrocket too.
This happened thanks to the famous sanctions imposed by the United States and Europe on Russian products.
Today, I'm authorizing additional strong sanctions and new limitations on what can be exported to Russia.
As of today, almost no company is allowed to import oil or natural gas from Russia, which makes the situation of getting around these resources even worse. So that partially explains why the price of everything is going up so bad in 2022. But there's at least one more reason that is also related to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine that is causing the price of things to go up today, but that is also a big threat for our economy in 2023. I'm talking about the food shortage.
You see, Russia and Ukraine together are the largest exporters of wheat in the world, accounting for 25% of all global exports. And as you might know, wheat means bread. And Russia and Ukraine not only export wheat, they're also two of the largest exporters of corn, sugar, and sunflower oil.
So the war, the sanctions, and all the destruction in Ukraine have caused a massive disruption in the economy and a tremendous price rise in all these basic grains. the longer the war lasts, the more prices will rise because cereals are produced seasonally. In other words, the wheat and corn that we're consuming today was produced in the harvest of 2021. Therefore, since the harvest of 2022 would probably be a lot smaller than 2021 due to all the geopolitical conflicts, the chances of higher prices in 2023 due to the low supply of these resources is almost inevitable. And I know this begs the question, can we just find an alternative product to wheat or corn? Well, the answer to that is yes and no. Wheat and corn are fundamental grains in our society, and we could replace them with other grains like soybeans, for example, but only in certain edible products. And then there's a problem too. The price of soybeans is already skyrocketing, so if we have to stop consuming wheat or corn and start replacing it with alternative foods, the price of all these foods is going to go up anyways. That's why I believe that things are going to get worse in 2023. Oil, natural gas, and all the basic grains are the foundation to all the products and services that we consume every day today. That leads me to two more questions.
First, can the government do anything about it? And second, how can we protect ourselves from rising prices? Let's start by exploring the government's options here. Number one, the government could begin to regulate prices and put limits on price increases for basic grains. But in that case, the ones who would suffer the consequences would be the producers. Number two, the government could also lower taxes temporarily on gasoline and grain sales.
This could be a temporary solution, although I doubt it could be implemented in any meaningful way because of the reason that I'm about to explain.
And finally, the government could also subsidize the cost of gasoline, grain, and other products or services. A subsidy means that the government helps co-pay for part of the cost of certain products or services to the final customer.
But there is a problem with this approach. If the government begins to intervene in the economy again and starts giving money away just like they did during the pandemic,
it also means that somebody has to foot the bill.
At the end of the day, the ones who will pay that bill are the citizens, that is you and me. One way or another, whether it's through higher taxes or higher levels of inflation.
But apart from the government, another entity that can also do something to curb inflation is the Federal Reserve.
President Biden met with Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell today, and the main topic of conversation, inflation, and ways to bring prices down.
The Federal Reserve, or the Fed, acts as the central bank here in the US. The Fed is trying to curb inflation right now by hiking interest rates. All those mortgages, bank credits, loans, credit card debt,
all of those loans and debts are going to be more expensive now. Fewer people and companies are going to lend money, which decreases the demand for products and services. And normally this brings inflation down, but at the same time, it also puts the economy at risk of a recession. If less people are consuming, that also means that there's going to be less growth in the economy. And that is the big debate that we're seeing in today's economy. At what cost is worth to curb inflation?
As much as I hate being the carrier of bad news, it seems like things are not going to get better anytime soon.
And all we can do right now is try to protect ourselves from rising prices. In that sense, I just want to clarify that, of course, by no means I claim to be a financial advisor. And all I can do right now is to share with you what I would personally do with my own finances to protect me and my family.
The first thing we try to do is to not keep large amounts of cash in our bank account.
And I know that sounds counterintuitive at first, but what we need to realize is that cash money loses purchasing power every single day at the same rate that inflation goes up. It is designed to do that, to encourage spending. And so it only makes sense that after your contingency fund is met, every single dollar needs to be invested in something that will hedge you against inflation. Now, with that being said, I'm well aware that the market is crazy right now.
The Dow down more than 1% and the S&P 500 down more than 1.5%.
But historically, it is proven that this is one of the best times to invest in solid companies. Proven investors like Warren Buffett are investing big time in these companies right now.
Big opportunities in life have to be seized. When we get the chance to do something that's right and big, we've got to do it.
So yeah, I know this video is not necessarily encouraging, but it is real. And I really hope, guys, that we all make it well to the other side, because this crisis is not going to last forever, and we're gonna see better days in our economy again. But in the meantime, it will be my pleasure to keep you updated on how things are moving forward. So if you enjoyed this video, do me a favor and drop a comment on the comment section down below. Let me know what your thoughts about this topic is. And don't forget to hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm. This is Hector. I hope to see you next time, and bye.